Welcome to Thrive Tribe. I'm Megan Scheibner, your host, and with me is Dr. Steve Scheibner. Say hi, Dad. Oh, wait a minute. That's your other show. You know, some of our viewers may not know that you have a cooking show.
I do, Cooking with Dad.
Yes, your own YouTube channel, Cooking with Our Chef Daughter, so
Right.
they can catch you there
Yes,
too.
they can. And,
Yes.
and the hi dad shtick is always lots of fun. So.
Yes, yeah, but I won't pull that on you here.
Okay, thank you for that.
And today at the Thrive Tribe table, we're going to talk about how do you have educational success in the midst of this kind of COVID mess. And we have heard from a lot of the people who follow character health that they're really concerned about this year.
Yes.
Because
Educational success in a COVID mess. Okay,
yeah.
It rhymes, so it must be important.
It must be true.
It must be true.
It must be true. So lots of options for how kids are going to be schooled this year, right? We've got homeschoolers. We've got people who feel like they're being forced to be homeschoolers.
Right.
Kids who are going to school with kind of hanging over their head as
Yeah.
soon as someone gets COVID, they all come home for 2 weeks. And then we've got virtual school.
Right.
And so the norm of education is not the norm anymore, right?
And I think I heard there's like a hybrid of those two. There's kids that are going to school for a week or two and then coming home for a week or two.
So they're rotating kids in and out.
How is that going to work?
You know, I hate how often we have heard unprecedented times, but educationally speaking, this is unprecedented
It
times.
is, right.
And so this week at the table, we want to talk about there are 3 really important educational goals that we can meet as parents this year, regardless of how our kids are being schooled.
Right.
Because one of the things we've heard is a lot of people are afraid and they're saying, what if my child falls behind? Or what if they don't reach the goal?
Right.
And the question is, what's behind?
What is behind even mean?
What's the goal? There is no arbitrary line where you say, my child has learned all that they should learn.
I think the fear that people have with that is they're going to fall behind other kids. But if everybody's in the same boat, then they're not really going to fall behind other kids. Although your kid could be the one that's in the lead if you take advantage of how you teach them at home. And it's not nearly as hard as you think. I mean, I think a lot of parents get just absolutely petrified of, how do I even teach my kids at home? Well, first of all, it's not the public school. You're not standing up in front of a blackboard lecturing, with a pointer. That's not the way this works. And so, but there are some things that you can do that will help them stay up or even get ahead of the other kids in the midst of this mess.
And even if you're doing virtual school or they are going to school, these 3 things we're going to share today are really kind of the apex of education.
Right.
It's not math, reading, any of those things. If you can get these 3 things down, your kids are going to excel in all those academic type subjects.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited about this.
Yeah. So the first one we want to talk about is this. This is a great year to teach life skills.
Right.
Now, Steve, as a dad, what do you think are life skills that kids should be learning?
Well, it's the practical stuff that you and I have to do every day as adults, right? So teaching or training our kids to be adults, right? To take responsibility of themselves and getting them prepared for life outside of the home, or maybe for the next stage for them. Like, let's say they're a little kid, 2, 3, 4 years old. Well, what's next for them? Well, getting them prepared to take advantage of doing chores around the house and, like running a lawnmower. Let me show you around the lawnmower. Let me show you how to, check the oil in the lawnmower. Life skills for teens, especially teenagers, would be things like how to change a tire in a car. And don't be afraid to teach your girls how to change a tire.
Absolutely.
Right? Because the worst thing would be for them to be stranded off the side of the road and their cell phone battery was dead. Oh, my word. But that also puts a young lady in peril. So if she can get out there and change a tire, it's a great confidence builder, right? If you're a young lady that knows how to change a tire, you're like, hey, I can take on the world, man. I can do just about anything. That would be one of them.
I remember the last time I changed a tire, you were on deployment, and I was out with another Navy wife, and I was about 8.5 months pregnant, and we got a flat tire, and she didn't know what to do, and our husbands were gone, so I changed the tire because my dad taught me how to change a tire.
Right. 8.5 months pregnant, not changing a tire. I love it. And I'm so sorry I was on deployment.
Now at this age, if I bent over to look at the tire, I'd be done.
Yeah. Thanks for not saying. And you were just, too preoccupied, didn't want to get out of the car. So I changed the tire. No, it wasn't like that.
No.
So here's a really simple one. Teach a kid how to change a light bulb. Right? Now we go around and we change the light bulbs. Well, is there a lot to changing a light bulb? No, but you have to find the light bulbs. B, you have to get the right type of light bulb, right? The next thing is turn the light off before you do it, right? So you don't electrocute yourself or burn yourself because the bulb gets hot. Unscrew it, screw the number, and then take the old bulb and don't just leave it there. Take it and throw it in the trash or throw it in the recycle bin. So there's a little bit involved in just changing a light bulb, but how many of you do that for your kids all the time and never teach them how to do it?
Yeah, because I cannot tell you how often we get phone calls from our kids saying, wow, I really adulted today.
Right.
Where they're learning to put those things into practice. How to turn off the water to the house if you have like a plumbing issue. Little things that we just kind of naturally do. Hopefully we naturally do.
Yeah, that's really a terrific thing. Checking the oil in the car.
Yeah.
Right? That's not hard to do.
Yeah. And for both sexes, knowing how to meal plan.
Right.
Knowing how to make a grocery list. Now, for those of you who your kids are home doing virtual school for the first time or they're doing that 2 weeks in, 1 week out kind of thing, it's a great life skill to learn how to make a list to organize your day because they're used to a teacher organizing their day.
Correct.
And they need to learn how to do it themselves. So life skills are things that are going to go on well beyond college. But we get focused on, math, reading, English, and the life skills get missed. And that's when you get a 23, 24-year-old who feels like they're floundering.
Right. We had, have the kids sit down with you when you're paying the bills. And now that might not be real exciting for them, but get them in a little high chair.
Learning,
give them a stool, sit down next to you, and go, okay, let's talk about the bills. We did this once. We only did it once, but it was way back when the kids were little. And we took the whole paycheck in cash. Now, you can go to your bank and get your whole paycheck in cash, but let's say your paycheck is $3,500 or whatever it is, for a month or a half a month. And if you go get that much money in cash, it looks like...
Oh, yeah, we're going to Disney.
Oh, my word. It looks like you just hit the lottery, right? And then you say to them, okay, well, here's $3,500, kids, on the table, and it's in cash. And their eyes get this big, right? Because they're thinking of all the candy they could buy with it. And you go, well, we got to take this stack, this stack, this stack, and this stack just to pay the mortgage every month on the house. So we're going to put that aside. Okay, here's gas in the car. Oh, here's another couple stacks for the car payment. Right? And then by the time you get done going through all that, you've got about $72 left to buy groceries and toilet paper and essentials to get you through to the next paycheck. And the kids need to understand that. So those are some basic life skills and some adulting appreciation moments that can be taught with the extra time that you have your kids at home in the school year. And my contention, and yours, I believe, is that these are much better lessons than they're ever going to get in reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That last one you mentioned, that's kind of a good thing for husband and wife too, when we begin to go, where is the money going?
Right.
Just 1 month, get it all in cash and go, okay, let's look where it's going.
Well, I have to keep reminding myself about that because we do it all the time.
Yeah, you'll say to me, how do we have nothing left?
Right, the pay comes in, I go, how in the world did we go through that much money? And I forget, I'm in an age now where I'm putting a lot of extra money into my 401k because in 5 or 6 years I'm going to have to retire, and so I'm trying to make up for lost time and all that. And I have to remember that there's a big chunk of money that I never see that I disciplined myself to get rid of before I, spend it on everything.
Right. And, interestingly, in Proverbs 31, it talks about children rising up and calling the mother blessed.
Right.
But really, it happens with both parents. But they didn't do it about the academic things we taught them. We get phone calls off, man, I'm really glad you showed me how to do this.
Right.
Because now I'm having to do it on my own.
So my suggestion to parents is this. Sit down with a blank piece of paper or a notepad and write down 25 life skills that you'd like your kids to learn. And then, just like a to-do list, start working through that list systematically over the next weeks or months when your kids are home.
That's a great
depending
idea.
on whatever their school schedule is. That's called homeschooling.
Yeah.
Not hard to do.
Or virtual schooling. I mean, your kids are going to be in all kinds of educational
situations
situations
better use
this year.
Of their time rather than sleeping in or playing video games or staring at the walls.
Yeah, when you're saying to yourself, what am I going to do with these kids home all day?
You can make a list.
All right, so number 1 is this, teach life skills. Number 2, and this is so important, and this can happen this year, is teach your kids to love learning. And the way you do that is by allowing them to explore those things that delight them.
Yes.
So if you have a child who is delighted with cars, Don't spend all your time reading about sports, right? Find things that they can learn and research that excite their heart, especially for those of you, I would say boys probably tend more toward this, who you're like, wow, they just seem so delayed in their reading and they never want to sit down and read a book. If you have a little boy, well, we had a little boy who was a baseball player and didn't like to read. So I got him sports magazines and we checked baseball books out of the library. And when he started to read about things that excited him, all of a sudden he was engaged in the process of learning. It's the same for us as adults. You know, I don't read books about watches. But you do.
I do.
You do. You sit and read books about watches. For me, it's like, I've got a cell phone. What do I need a watch for?
Yeah. Look at the movement on that watch. Wow.
But what we're teaching our kids is it's okay to pursue those things that they love. Yeah. So you were going to talk about what do you do with a boy who just loves cars?
Okay, so depending on what the kid loves, but let's say you get a kid that's into cars, and we've had several that were into cars. There's so many resources available now that weren't available when I was a kid. When I was a kid, there were cars, there were car manuals, there were maybe a book you could get at the library or you could buy about fixing cars, but you'd have to love to read to do that. And then you'd have to translate the reading into working on the car. Now there's YouTube. All right. And so you go to YouTube, basically anything that you want to fix or repair or learn something about, there's thousands of videos on YouTube, from amateurs all the way down to paid experts that walk you through in a short, maybe 3-minute or 40-minute video. It depends on what you want. They're all out there, and you can learn on any subject. So your kid's into cars, right? Well, go do Jay Leno's garage. Jay Leno has hundreds of cars himself. He brings in all of his friends with these exotic, funny, different, interesting, odd, quirky cars, and he spends 20 to 30 minutes showing you the car, talking about the car, taking the car for a drive. You're going to learn a lot of stuff about cars and different cars just by watching that.
And history.
And history, right? The cars used to look like this, and here's what the kind of engines they had in them back then. Now they have these, because he does them for all different eras. So the neat thing is, that's something fun that the two of you can do together. Doesn't require getting a book or reading it. You can just sit and watch Jay Leno's Garage. Or go to YouTube and type in car shows.
Right.
And there's going to be 1,000 different car channels. So, let's say you got a car that needs some repair. Maybe you got an old fixer-upper that you want to work on. Sit down with your kid and say, hey, today, we've got a bunch of stickers on the back of the car, and I want to get rid of those stickers. Let's learn how to do that. So go into YouTube, type in, get rid of the stickers on the back of my car. There's going to be dozens of videos with guys with tips and techniques on how to do it. Watch a couple of videos, go do it. And
it really, that applies to any area. There's gardening, there's cooking, there's photography, there's filmmaking, there's book writing, all those things.
And so don't just limit it to YouTube. I mean, I love that because it's easy.
Yeah.
But sometimes a little too easy because somebody does it for you. But learn to love to read. Go do some research, right? We taught our kids to learn to love learning, and now they're annoying because they're grown adults and they've learned how to teach themselves. And so now they debate with us and argue back over stuff.
Yeah.
And many times they're very well informed, which is really hard to deal with.
One of the best parts about teaching our kids to love learning is that when they know that they can spend time in those things that delight them, they won't fight you as much on the things they hate to do. Right. It builds an atmosphere. It builds a character in them, really, of I can learn.
Yeah,
I can learn.
And it's a huge life skill. It's the difference between handing somebody a fish and teaching them how to fish.
Absolutely.
Right. If they learn to love to learn, then they've got a life skill that'll take them through the rest of their lives.
All right. So we're going to teach them life skills, and we're going to teach them to learn. To love to learn. And then this final one is to help our kids become lifelong learners. Mm-hmm. School is a finite thing. When we say, what if they fall behind? What if they don't make it? That we're setting an end. Like, okay, you get through college or you get through your master's and then you're done. We want to be lifelong learners. And so the very first step in that is mom and dad, model it yourself. What are you learning about?
Right.
What's something new that you go, you know what? I'm going to learn how to do that. I'm 58 years old. What new thing?
Well, can I toot your horn? You just got your master's degree?
I did just get my master's, yeah.
And so at 58 years old, last Sunday, you walked down the aisle and got with all your classmates and got your diploma. And I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you.
For doing that. And that's organized, structured learning. You could keep going to school forever if you want to. I'm not much of a student. I'm not really a book guy. But I got my doctorate, right? I just kept plugging away at it, right? And the more you do it, the more fun it gets. Right? When you have to do it, it's like, you're like a kid,
Yeah.
Do I have to learn that? Yes, you have to learn it. What? I'm never going to use algebra. Yeah, I know you're never going to use algebra, but you still have to do it, right?
No, you
but
don't.
at some point, when you take over your own lifelong learning habits, you actually enjoy the stuff that you're learning. And
Right.
it becomes kind of, I don't know, it's kind of addictive. Right?
We are the model for
Right.
our kids in that. And if you want your kids to become lifelong learners, then you have to kind of take your hands off, which is, Mom, how does this work? Well, it would be really easy for me, especially now it's my grandchildren. When little Kaylee says, well, how does this work? I could tell her or I could show her how to figure it out.
So what did we say to the tweeners when we were homeschooling the kids? They'd sit in the back of the van and they'd say, how does this work? And what would you say?
Well, that's a great question. Why don't you write me a 2-page paper?
Why don't you write me a 2-page paper?
And they wrote a lot of 2-page papers on things that interested them.
Right.
But I can say for our kids, they are all still lifelong learners. Right? They're interested in learning. Now, for us, especially spiritual things, that was part of my master's was, you don't hit the end in your walk with the Lord. And boy, I know it all. I wanted to be challenged to continue to grow, but it's the same in any area. There's never been a better year for this to happen because the normal flow of things is, whether we're homeschooling and our kids, we're strictly home, or our kids are in co-ops, whether they go to school, however it is, their days are so full. Yeah. And they've got sports and they've got church activities and they've got music lessons. Well, that's all kind of been curtailed this year, and it can help us as parents fine-tune our focus to what can we give them this year that is going to fit them to grow for their whole life. Yeah. And it's this: teach them life skills, teach them to love learning, and teach them to be lifelong learners.
Right. If you should hear yourself saying this, here's something I just learned.
Right.
Right, and I hear you say that a lot. Hey, I just learned this. And then you share it with somebody. And I say that fairly often. My dad, he was an interesting guy. My dad had a new word of the week. He always wanted to expand his vocabulary.
We did that for a while.
So, he liked the word opine, to opine about something, right? And I remember he would be obnoxious. He would use the word of the week in a sentence over and over again. But he was reinforcing it in his mind. But he kept having a lifelong love of learning, which I think is very important for your brain. It's important for a lot of things. But, go to the Sunday sermon. Here's why it's so important to attend church and be at a Sunday sermon. Go into the Sunday sermon, take notes, but be looking for the new thing you learned this week from the sermon.
Right.
And I guarantee every Sunday you can learn something new.
And then encourge your pastor.
Encourage your pastor.
That you learned it.
Send him a note. Send him an email. Say, hey, thanks for the sermon this week. I just learned this. Don't send him a note that says, well, I disagree with you about that. I don't have nearly the education or training that you do, but I think you're wrong about this. Be humble in the whole thing and learn.
Well, really, that's what Cooking with Dad is, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, is a desire for you to learn, and you have mastered. We now have. You are the chicken wing master.
I am. I know how to make béarnaise sauce.
You made steak Diane the other night, but that's all continuing a
so
lifelong
good.
love of learning.
Right.
Because there is no end to what our kids are going to learn, and we're the ones that get to model for them. You're going to learn all the way till the end.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Well, this has been Thrive Tribe, and take this year and make the most of it. You can have educational success in the midst of this COVID mess.
You absolutely can. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you listen to this whole episode, you obviously liked it. Click the little thumbs up down below. It helps us out a lot. And subscribe and send it to somebody else and make them subscribe too, like somebody that owes you, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm Megan Scheibner.
And I'm Dr. Steve Scheibner.
And this has been Thrive Tribe.
Well, thanks for watching that clip on YouTube. Remember to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our weekly content. See you soon.